Hello, everyone. It's Jody Sutter of the Sutter Company, and welcome back to another Just Ask Jody live. This is the live version of my YouTube series where I take a question from an agency that has an issue with business development. And in the YouTube series, I answer it in 4 minutes or less. But on the Just Ask Jody live, we've expanded it to 30 minutes, and I invite on a guest who has something valuable to offer the owners and leaders of small agencies, which is who I work with mostly. And we're going to get to that person in just a moment. I'm really excited about our guest today. But first of all, just a reminder, if you are listening live, please do comment. I've got my team member, Megan, in the background monitoring the comments just in case I don't see any of them, but I'm monitoring them well. So please, we really want participation. What else? Wow. So at the time of this recording, it is December 19th. So we're almost at the end of the year. I just finished a masterclass. I led a masterclass on annual planning for new business. Maybe some of you who are here today or listening were part of that. And if you were, thank you. But if you weren't, as we head into January, this is really the ideal time to start thinking about how you want to make the most of 2024 for new business. When I work with my clients, one of the things I do is to get them thinking about, I call it the new business ecosystem. And the three core components of your new business ecosystem is what are you doing to market yourself? What are you doing to sell yourself? And how are you closing business? And today we're going to be focusing on the marketing side. And one of the things that I love from marketing is, of course, expert content, thought leadership, and there's lots of different ways that you can do that. It's not just writing a blog. So I'm going to get to my guest right now. I've invited Susan Baier on for today. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her. Hi, Susan.
Really?
So Susan is the founder of Audience Audit, and Audience Audit is a research company which helps marketing agencies and thought leaders build ROI and reputation with research. So Audience Audit does these wonderful attitudinal segmentation research studies.
There you go.
I know, say that 5 times
I
fast.
know.
But they provide these quantitative insights into how your audiences feel. Now, if you're an agency owner, you are doing this for your clients, probably. Many of you are. But so few agencies take advantage of that same powerful proprietary research and insights in order to set themselves up as an expert and attract the right clients. So it's so nice to have you with us, Susan. Thank you.
Thanks, Jody. Super fun to be here.
Yeah. So we've got a bunch of stuff I want to talk about. But first, tell me a little bit about how you ended up working with agencies rather than, you still do work with some marketers and, as I said, thought leaders. But why did you focus on agencies, and what do they typically get out of working with you?
Well, I work with agencies because I'm an agency person and I love agency people and I like working with them instead of directly with clients. Uh,
Nice.
but quite honestly, the value for me of working with agencies is that often agencies know more about what to do with research than their clients do, and so it's a
Huh.
really important. It's an important side of the triangle.
Yeah.
Us, the client, if it's for a client, and then the agency in between, who really has some foresight that the client themselves may not have.
So that's interesting. So you will work with agencies on behalf of their clients as well as on behalf of the agencies themselves.
That's right, and many of our clients do both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, what I want to focus on is when you are hired to buy an agency on their behalf.
Mhm.
Um, this is going to be like a big, broad question, and I know how I would answer it. But what is the value of doing a custom research study for an agency?
So we actually have a lot of research on this. The first
Of course,
is,
you do.
yeah, surprise, surprise. I have an in.
Mm,
One of the things we know is what thought leadership followers in the B2B space
mhm.
say a thought leadership reputation on the part of a provider like an agency, the
Yeah.
impact that has on them. They are more likely to hire them. They are more likely to stay with them. They are more likely to recommend them. They are more likely to pay higher rates for them than
Wow.
the same vendor, say, that does not have that thought leadership reputation. So that's why you do it, right? I mean, we all love to get to the place where we're not out chasing clients
Yeah.
anymore. They're coming to us. and the right fit clients. So that's why you do it. It's just building your thought leadership, and there are lots of ways to do that. Now, there are specific reasons research works so well for that, and it's really because it gives three things that both sides want, three on each side. So the research that we've done demonstrated that thought leadership followers want three things from thought leaders. They want information that's new perspective, new approach, new data, new insights. They want something that's helpful, both strategically and tactically. And they want it from somebody they like and trust. And that's really a combination of, oh, you work in the business, you have experience, you're generous, you're authentic and approachable. And so that's what they want.
Yeah.
What the thought leader themselves wants and really needs to generate a return on this investment, and it is an investment if you're doing research.
Yeah.
There's three things you need. First of all, you need it to create differentiation for you. And that's not just having a unique study, it's doing research in the first place. Because we've all been to conferences where people are up there just talking about their perspective, but they don't have any data behind it. So
I mean, I have to say, guilty as charged.
We've all been there. Right.
Yeah.
We've all been there. But research shows that you're different, just the fact you're doing it, both with your audience and with event organizers, by the way. So that's number one. It's got to give you differentiation. Number two, you've got to have visibility on it. You can have all the greatest ideas in the world, amazing thought leadership, but if nobody sees it, if your audience doesn't see it, it's not helping you. And research, depending on how you do it and how well you do it and what it looks like, is tremendous at getting eyeballs and getting other organizations who serve your audience to share it for you. So you get a lot of visibility that you wouldn't have. And the third thing is you need conversion. And that means you have to have something that is engaging and helpful enough, interesting enough for people to give you an email address so that they are addressable and you get them into your communication funnel so you can have more in-depth conversations with them. So research accomplishes all three on both sides in a way that most other things don't.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of things I want to unpack there. So one of the things, I'm maybe going to start with the thing that's probably on everyone's mind, although maybe it's the most unattractive topic, and that's the investment. So when I've talked to my clients about this, because I do really feel like being a known expert has so many advantages, and I often get pushback. It's hard. I'm going to put all this time into it. I need to come up with ideas, and also got some thoughts about or questions for you about that. But a big one with something like this is it's just so expensive. And I won't necessarily ask you to share costs. Although if anyone, by the way, anyone who's listening to this or tuning in today, we'll be giving you Susan's email address. I can give it to you right now. Also, susan@audienceaudit.com, but we'll be flashing that up at the end. I'm sure you'd be happy to talk to anyone about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so I would talk to me a little bit about like if I were an agency owner and I wanted to maybe think about investing, what's the cost benefit that I should be focusing on?
Yeah. So the type of research you do can greatly change the price depending on what you're doing.
Okay.
Great people. We've built this work specifically for small to mid-sized agencies. That's who we work with. So we engineered it so it would be affordable for agencies like that. But I think the conversation I have with prospective clients on this question of investment is, yes, it is an investment. And you think, oh, research, how are we going to pay for that? But often prospects don't think about what else they're doing to support either their thought leadership or their new business development that can be a trade-off. I mean, we have agencies out there spending a lot on advertising and marketing. We have them spending a lot of resources on sales efforts and teams and all of that kind of stuff.
Sometimes those third-party lead generators who are out there doing.
No doubt. And it's not going to happen overnight. But I can tell you that, and you know this, Jody, a thought leadership reputation will flip the equation for you where right fit clients are coming to you, and you don't need to make those other kinds of investments. So it's an investment for sure, but it's one that will pay off in the long term if you do it right.
Yeah, and sometimes it does take a while. I describe this idea of a new business ecosystem, and I came up with this idea a few years ago when I was sort of putting my toolkit in place, and it was in reaction to or addressing a problem that I saw frequently, which was agency owners, agency leaders, um, making the investment in time and money towards new business, but it was sporadic and it was the wrong stuff.
Right.
And I often would say, let's rarely would we actually do this, but I was often tempted to say, let's like wipe the slate clean and let's just look a little bit at what your goals are, what your strengths are, what you're really equipped to do, and what your positioning is, and then let's pick one thing, like one thing, and then
Mhm.
maybe if we have the bandwidth, another thing. And let's start with that and build this ecosystem. And like a natural ecosystem, you want to put the right amount in there, not too much, not too little, and it's got to be right for the environment. You're not going to plant a tropical vine or a tropical plant in the tundra. It's just not
Right.
going to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so smart. I mean, we over here, we're strong believers in the niche,
Yeah.
and having a tight niche. And the other thing you need
Mm,
for any kind of thought leadership is you need to have a point of view.
yeah.
And we have a lot of, prospective clients who come and talk to us. And like you said, things are sporadic. They're not exactly sure what they're doing. It's sort of hit and miss. And sometimes at the bottom of that is really they haven't gone back to a clean
Mhm.
slate and thought about, well, what is our point of view as an agency? What is our niche, the problem we are great at solving, or the audience that we really
Yeah.
know, or the environment we know better than anybody else? And if you don't have those things, then investing against thought leadership when you're sort of in the weeds anyway doesn't make a lot of sense. And I will tell
Yeah.
clients not to do it.
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
just
That's interesting.
you're just getting ready, you're just getting rid of your money at that point. You have to have a focus, and sometimes that means a little upfront work for sure.
Do you get involved? There are probably some folks who say, "Yeah, I would love to do this, and maybe we even have the money to do it, but I don't really feel like I have like that point of view." A lot of agency owners I work
Yes.
with, some of them, okay, small minority do not have a strong point of view, and that's a shame. But that's like really so rare. Most of them do, but they don't know how to articulate it. And
Yeah,
for
or they
those,
haven't or they haven't thought about it in that way.
yeah,
They're like,
yeah,
"Oh,
they take it
I
for
guess we
granted.
do," I guess we do. I go through we do a kickoff conversation with the agency team when we start a project, and we have a bunch of questions we take them through in part to sort of understand their point of view, and they'll come in saying, "Well, I don't really know that we have a point of view." And then as you talk through it, it's very clear that they do. They just
Yeah,
haven't gotten the whole team together and thought about it in that kind of language and
yeah.
and codified it.
Or they take it so for granted. They just figure, "Well, of course, that's my point of view because that's the kind of expert I am," and like, "Yeah, but get it out there. Fly
Yeah.
that flag."
Yeah. And some of my favorite clients have a very strong point of view, have a model, have a whole framework, have a whatever,
Mhm.
and come and say, "Are we right?
Interesting.
This is what we think.
That's
This
interesting.
is how we talk to clients. We don't really know for sure if it's correct." You
So
know?
that sounds like that you would do work for them, not necessarily to help them promote themselves, but to help them validate their model?
Both. Both.
Huh.
Because that let's go back to that authenticity thing with the thought leader, Jody.
Yeah.
So important to people. And when we have folks who test models or frameworks or whatever, and it ends up being a little bit different from what they imagined, it's never
Yeah.
throwing the baby out with the bathwater because they're experts already. But
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
there are four categories, not three, or four steps, not three, or whatever. And what I tell them is talk about that. It's great to say, you know what, we've been thinking this way, but we were curious. We invested against really understanding this better, and we
Yeah.
found something new. And that was really surprising to us. And now this is how we're incorporating our advice. This is how we're adapting what we say based on what we found. And that's
Yeah.
incredibly affinity building for an
Yeah.
audience.
I find one of the things that's so valuable about thought leadership and a point of view is that it removes the need that most agencies feel they have to use a lot of adjectives.
Right.
Like, client focused and relentless, and and I think when an agency can say to a client, I don't know if this agency like would say this in particular, but when they can communicate to a client or client group like, "Hey, look, we did this thing because we had a hunch that this would work, but we wanted to legitimize it. We wanted to make sure we were correct, and we invested in it, and we got feedback, and we tweaked it." I think that that says so much more than we're 100% focused on your issues. And
Yeah.
instead, the clients
Yeah,
actually walk away thinking that, but
mhm.
you never have to say it.
Right. Well, one of the things that a thought leader needs to be is a specialist.
Mhm.
And research both makes you a
Yeah.
specialist and demonstrates that you are a specialist. So you
Yeah.
don't have to get some of that sort of, cost of doing business stuff out of the way. People come
Yeah.
to you because they see that you're an expert and that you invest in making sure your expertise remains current.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I would love to, if you're willing to share, we were talking a little bit about this right before we went live. If you're willing to share some examples of when an agency has hired you to do research to promote themselves
Hmm.
and how that's worked. And, one of them is an agency that I know that we both know. I've worked with, you've worked with, called Fancy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we could,
Yeah.
if they're
Fancy's
okay, hopefully.
Yeah,
Fancy.
Fancy's a great
Fancy
example.
Women.
Fancy is a woman-owned agency in New York City,
Yeah.
small agency, and they're really swimming upstream against how marketers market to women now and the way it should
Mm.
be. And they came to us for some research, and we did research with women and asked about taboo topics and how things should be treated in marketing. Absolutely fascinating results. And they are writing about it, talking about it, like sharing it.
Yeah.
It is really, and Fancy is just wonderful at not only having a point of view, but really making their content um, so that you can't see it as coming from anyone else. It's
Yeah.
just theirs. It
Yeah,
looks
we
like
were talking about that.
announcement.
Even when I don't have time to read the email, I
Their
know it. I
voice
see
is
their
so
logo at the
great.
top. Yeah.
Strong. They know their audience, and their audience knows them. So that's
Yeah.
that's really lovely. We have another small agency client called Stitchcraft, which specializes in the craft marketplace. So retailers, think mom and pop yarn stores,
Yeah.
quilting stores. They have some manufacturers that serve that space. We did their first study, and she actually got a speaking gig at a major conference before the research was done, just
Yeah.
based on the fact that she was doing it, which happens to a lot of our clients. We
Mhm.
presented it despite being left off the agenda and having a speaking location on the trade show floor.
Oh
Um,
my gosh,
right,
not on a real stage.
not ideal. So we
Yeah.
presented. We had a few people to start, but all of a sudden we started getting all these people sort of coming and listening and listening. She presented it at that conference, and she presented it at another conference. Uh, she got so many leads from those two conferences. She had the best sales days she's had in 25 years of owning her agency.
Wow.
And one of the major sponsors who participated with her, a partner in the research, is now asking
Yeah.
her to do the research for them, do
Oh, that's
research for them
great.
to understand their audience. So all of a sudden,
Yeah.
just this huge input, just by having information that was helpful to her
Yeah.
audience and sharing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think it can be useful for agencies who know they want to get in the space, but and I've worked with a bunch of these folks too, just say like, "Oh, I'm no good at writing, or you're never going to get me to sit down and write an article or develop a talking strategy." And this is especially good, I think, for folks who agency leaders who maybe are a little bit more analytical and maybe also a little bit more, you can tell me if I'm wrong based on your experience, but maybe a little bit more introverted.
Mhm.
Um, and they're less likely to seek the stage. What I
Yes.
like about
Very
research
much
is
so.
one, it's based on your point of view, and yet you're given this rich set of data
Right.
from which you can draw insights. And that can be a gift that keeps on giving.
It builds a lot of confidence in our clients.
Hmm.
Now, if our clients get a speaking opportunity and want me to join them on stage and help them present, I do.
Interesting.
And then,
Yeah.
but the other thing is, even if I can't, because my schedule doesn't allow, I tell them, you're not on stage alone anymore. You've got the data with you.
Yeah.
It's up
Yeah.
there with you. And it really is helpful in building confidence because you do have the authority to talk about what you're talking about, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's a hard hump for people to get over. So yeah, it helps me when I present.
I bet. And also I think that studies, and maybe this is also more of an investment, but if the investment is paying off, but like on an annual basis, you can probably go back to that study, ask the same questions, what's changed. And so that's also becomes this evergreen content theme
Yeah,
that you're not sort of at the end of the year, again, some people who are watching us or listening now who are struggling with like, what's my editorial calendar for next year? That again,
it's so
that's
powerful.
pressure alleviated.
I mean, we all know really exceptional thought leaders. And the one thing they all have in
Mhm.
common is that they don't rest on their laurels. It's not one book, it's not one
Yeah.
keynote, it's not one research study. It's folks who are just continually learning and sharing what they have learned.
Yeah.
Drew McClellan from Agency Management Institute and I are embarking on the 7th annual study of the Agency Edge, which is our study with agency clients. You've seen some of that work.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
have
And by the way, folks, when you get sign up for the mailing list because it's a really great study.
Yeah,
You get
we
a
do
copy of
every
it.
year. We do a webinar. We presented it
Yeah.
through the Build a Better Agency conference. But every year we have people reaching out right about this time and going, so what's the topic? When is it being presented? Where can I find it? Where can I see it? Because we've built an expectation that we're going to have something new every year.
Yeah.
And a lot of our clients do that. Even maybe one year they do a study of people like their prospects. So for their
Mhm.
prospects, it's sort of a peer study to go like, oh, how's everybody else doing? And then the
Yeah.
next year they'll do a study of their prospects. So
Interesting.
they get to see the people they're trying to sell to and sort of understand their
Yes.
perspective. So you can go back and forth, or you could do a longitudinal study, as you mentioned, same thing every year, and let's watch it. But there's lots of ways
Yeah.
to do it. And we tell our clients you should expect to get a year of content off of a strong thought leadership study, because then
Yeah.
you're good to go. Then you got baseline content for the rest of your year.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys also the Agency Edge, that is surveying agencies, right? Agency
No,
leaders?
the Agency Edge surveys typically agency clients. We've done it a
Okay.
couple of years
Yeah.
focusing on
Yeah.
agency employees. We have a study here at Audience Audit called the Agency Audit, which surveys agency
Okay.
leaders.
Yeah.
And that's
I
where
think
we see, an overwhelming percentage saying, yes, we know thought leadership is incredibly valuable. Yes, everybody should be doing it. And a minority doing it well or saying they
yeah.
can do it consistently. So we all know we need
Yeah.
to do it, but
Yeah.
knowing and doing is a big leap.
I know. Yeah, of course. But I will say that I think when I first became aware of you was, I think we decided it was 2017 when you and Drew were at HubSpot's agency Artist Partner Day.
Mhm.
And I was presenting, but you guys were presenting also. And I managed to see your talk. And it was really a fantastic summary of your study. Must have been the Agency Edge study with like 4 profiles
Mhm.
of buyers at marketers, and it was so useful. It was so useful. I think I probably
Glad to hear
promoted it so
that.
much because I was like, "My clients have got to hear this." Yeah, this
Yeah.
is exactly to get into the mindset of their own clients, the
Yeah. If
prospects
it's
they're trying
not
to
built
reach
to
them.
be useful, don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Research is like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get, but
Yeah.
you certainly can structure the things you want to ask.
Yeah.
So that no
Yeah.
matter what you find, it's going to be valuable to the audience that you're trying to
Yeah.
reach. Mhm.
Yeah. So one of the things that you said at the very beginning, I just loved that. You said that it was like that clients, agency clients who work with agencies who are considered experts, thought leaders, they're gonna hire them faster, they're gonna stay longer, and they're gonna pay them more.
Yep,
I feel
and they're
like
going
if
to
that's the only
refer
thing,
them more at
yeah,
much
and
higher
they're gonna
rates.
refer them more.
And that's a study we
Yeah.
did with predictive ROI as a thought leadership study for them. So that's available to everybody. If anybody wants to see it, I can point you directly to it.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Predictive ROA and ROI and Stephen Westner, another great resource for agencies. Yeah, a lot of times, and I think what's really so interesting about that is that it's so quantitative. A lot of times there have been studies throughout my career where one of the questions of marketers is why do you hire, why do you fire your agency, and why do you hire a new one? And usually the answer is around something like, well, they just didn't bring us enough strategic ideas, or they weren't proactive enough about the strategy. And so, yeah, again, that if that's what's on their minds, then they are going to be attracted to that kind of agency that's already promoting how they come up with the strategic ideas through that research and that niche, that
Yeah.
expertise.
It
It's really
makes
interesting.
a big impression on folks, you know,
Yeah.
and it allows you to talk about yourself without feeling salesy. A lot of us dislike that
Yes.
sales feeling. You talk about this a lot, right? And when you have something truly unique and helpful and
Yes.
generously share it, you can talk about it all day long and never feel icky. And the people that
That's
are
right.
listening to you never feel icky either,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think that's a really great point. You're going to feel so much more confident because you know that you have valuable information, and there may be audiences that for whom the information is not valuable, and that's okay, because for the ones that it is,
You care
those
about.
are the ones that, yeah, those are
Yeah, I call it being
genuine.
relentlessly helpful. It has a huge
Yeah.
impact on people. It feels great, makes you live longer,
Yeah,
releases
there you go.
dopamine in your brain. Like it's a win-win for everybody. You're helping
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
selling. That's great.
So we are getting to the bottom of our half hour, the end of our half hour. And I guess what are the first of all, is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't before I get to my last question?
I sometimes I get asked, are we too small for this? Is this really achievable
Mm.
for us?
Yeah, yeah. I bet a lot of people are saying that.
And no, anybody, Stitchcraft's a great example. Small agency,
Mhm.
absolutely a thought leader in their space and using
Yeah,
research to do that. There's always budget considerations for everybody.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yes, we have very small agencies. We are a two-person agency, Jody, and we have a thought leadership reputation
yeah,
that we've built over the years. And so you're small too, and
yeah,
and you're doing the same thing. You're building that
yeah.
reputation. So you can't be too small.
And I think that's a great point, and sort of going back as well to some of the stuff we were talking about at the beginning of the session today is the what you're already investing in new business that's not giving you a return. Again, whether it is that experimenting with that third party lead generator because you think that's going to be the silver bullet, or courses, or software tools.
Or more
Um,
sales team people trying to bring in somebody really expensive to
or,
help you
yeah,
sell.
or even like more time, like finding publicly available RFPs and sinking all your time and resources. So I might also say to agency owners, like, take a look at what you're spending on new business, and include also travel, and include your team time, what the cost of putting out that RFP, or yeah, submitting that RFP. I think there's a tremendous amount of sunk costs, and it's also especially easy to sort of hide your eyes and not look at the time that your team is putting into it, the thousands of dollars that your team is taking to answer that RFP.
And
If you
then
could
above
take that.
not only
Yeah.
new business, but we know it builds client loyalty, it
Yeah.
builds team
Yeah. So you
loyalty,
don't have to, so yeah, you're less
it
reliant on
gives you
new
to
business.
hire, it builds your profits, you can charge,
Yeah.
like, it's yes, it is new business, but there's so many other benefits to having that kind of a
Yeah.
reputation
Yeah.
that work throughout your agency. So,
Yeah.
lots of good reasons to do it.
I guess I have another question, because I'm thinking, I always think, like, what if what's the most skeptical person thinking right now? And they're like, well, those two just sound like it's a rah for research. As- which we are. But
I am rah-rah for research.
has it never not worked? I know it's a tough
So, it
question. I should
depends,
have
I
prepared
guess,
with that.
on what you define as working. I
Mm,
do have some prospects who say, "Well, we need to validate what we're doing. We need to prove that we're right." And I'm like, "My job is not to prove that you're right. My job is actually to try to prove you wrong, because then if you're right,
yes.
we know you're really right."
Yeah.
So, if you want research to align with everything you believe, don't go into research like that, because it's an
Yeah.
exploration. It's not a
Yeah.
validation.
Yeah.
So if you think it's getting the answers that you want, then I would suggest that you don't do it,
Yeah.
because, like I said, you don't know what you're going to get. So those are the situations where I feel like people can get frustrated. Sometimes I have clients who the owners feel something very specific, and I'm wary if the owner is unwilling to listen to any other possibilities, um,
Mm,
because that's just not good for the
yeah,
organization. They're spending
yeah,
money on something they're not going to use if it doesn't agree, and certainly not for us as researchers,
yeah.
because we're just here to help reveal what's out there. You know,
I would also think that the other situations where the research didn't quote work, because of course if you feel the study, you're going to come back with something, whether it's what you want to hear or not. But the other reason why this might not work as a sort of a marketing to help with the promotion of the agency is if you don't, and we talked about this a little bit earlier too, is if you don't leverage that study, if
you
you
don't
don't
do
go
it.
out and promote it and tell the world, here's what we've learned and here's how we can
Right.
help.
That's
So yeah,
exactly
be
right.
fair to it.
If you don't have visibility on it, if you're not building in systems to
Yeah.
allow it to bring the right people to you so you can have a conversation with them, then
Yeah.
you're disappointed. So that's something we talk about at the beginning of our studies, and we actually have stuff on the front end and the back end of the research to help that happen more
Great.
organically and make it easier for agencies to pull this off.
So if there are agencies who are thinking about this, maybe they were on the fence and they're now convinced, what should they do in order to get ready to do research or get ready to even contact you?
Just reach out
First of
to
all, they gotta
I'm like you, I talk to agencies all day long. So
yeah.
a lot of people feel uncomfortable with this. I pretty much go into every relationship assuming that somebody's had a bad experience with research because most of us have, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that I get a lot of people who say, I don't want to waste your time. I don't really know that much about research. It's fine. I don't want to waste your
Okay.
time because I'm not exactly sure what our point of view is. It's fine. Those are questions that I'm here to answer. So I
Okay.
think it's great to think about the questions that you have, but reach out. You want to see some examples? Reach out. You want to know what the pricing is? Reach out. All of those things are very much within reach, and
Okay.
you can start to make some decisions for yourself. But think
That
about it.
sounds
I
great.
urge you. It's
Yeah.
not out of reach for
Yeah.
most agencies, and it's powerful. Whether you do
Yeah.
research with us or with somebody else, it's good stuff to do for thought leadership. It's a great building
Yeah.
block for an agency.
Thank you so much for
Thank
talking to me
you.
today. This is really fun. So the other thing that you can do is you can contact Susan, and we might have a banner for her with her email, but it's very simple. There we go. Susan at audienceaudit.com. Thank you,
Yep.
Megan, for putting that up there. Yeah, I think I'm all for it. Like you said, you got a couple of research geeks here, and we're like rah research, but it's if this sounds like for you agency owners out there, if it sounds like this is appealing, please talk to Susan and just explore it a little bit because I agree. I think it could be a really wonderful way to promote your agency and start working with more of your ideal clients.
For sure. Happy to
So
help if we can get people on that path.
yeah.
Yeah.
Susan, thank you very much. I
Oh,
look forward to the audience edge or the agency edge rather coming out. Can't wait to see
coming out
that.
again this May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a ways.
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
be
it takes a little
patient.
while to do. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and to
I'm
pin
sure.
Drew down. So it's
Well, thank you so much, and,
Thank you.
we'll have to have you back. Well, I
I
would
love
love
it.
that if it's
I
okay.
love
All
it.
right, good. Thank you, Susan,
Yeah.
and